Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mat to Mastery podcast, where we link leadership and jiu-jitsu, revealing parallels between growth, adaptability, and resilience. I am your host, Sheb Giner, and it gives me great pleasure to invite inspirational leaders within the martial arts domain, where we explore how jiu-jitsu principles translate to leadership. Throughout these interviews, our aim is to learn how martial arts mindset empowers individuals to conquer life's challenges, illustrating the power of Jiu-Jitsu's philosophy in personal and professional mastery. And now I'd like to introduce you to a very special guest who is the head instructor at the International Jiu-Jitsu Foundation. He teaches traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu in the style of the late Professor Cam Hock Ho, alongside essential self-defense skills. Our guest began his journey into the martial arts with Chito-ryu karate and boxing in his teens, before joining the Air Force at the age of 17. He went on to train in various martial arts during his time with the Air Force, but it wasn't until he met Sergeant Michael Kimetsu Kaminsky in 1989 that he discovered his passion for jiu-jitsu. After 4 years of training, Doc Shaun achieved his brown belt and went on to complete his black belt training in RAF Butterworth, Malaysia. Since returning to Australia in 1999, Doc Shaun has taught numerous students in northern New South Wales, Brisbane, and now the Gold Coast. Over the past 20 years, he has taught everyone from Royal Australian Army and Air Force personnel to Thai Navy SEALs, bodyguards, elite sports people, and security personnel, both in Australia and overseas. Doc Shaun's dedication to Jiu-Jitsu and his students has earned him the respect and recognition of his peers. In 2008, he was awarded the 3rd Dan and Master Dan grade by Grand Master Raj for his knowledge and dedication to the IJJF and its students. Now, without further ado, I bring you Doc Shaun. Yay!
How are you, Sheb?
Hello.
Thanks for having me on your program.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Gosh, you have such an impressive bio, Doc Shaun.
Look, I could add more, but I'm trying to be humble. So we'll treat it like a book, and you can open some pages, and we'll go along. And
I love it. I love it. Tell me something about yourself, Doc Shaun, in terms of what inspired you to get in on this journey.
I started martial arts because, like a lot of kids, when you start high school, I grew up in the Blue Mountains area in Lithgow, which is a very hard town, coal mining town. And to be honest, when we're in year 7, we were getting beaten up by the older kids badly. You'd not imagine how these days what we're considered, bad, but really badly, you know what I mean? So one by one, we started doing karate and started winning a fight here and there. And then that started that journey there, really. So it was literally self-defense was the reason, you know what I mean? A genuine reason and need. And eventually a bunch of us did enough to fight our own way and got left alone for the rest of school. When I joined the military, it was a similar environment. I was 17, so I was a bit young, to be honest, to join the military, but I did for whatever reasons. And same deal again. You're a young person in an adult world, and you need to do something. So I stumbled across jiu-jitsu. I was trying other things, boxing and whatnot. Found jiu-jitsu and haven't looked back.
And what type of changes have you noticed since then? Like, I know it's many years of reflecting, but if you could say, take away the one thing, if you can highlight the one thing that's really sort of stands out in your life as a result of your practice in jiu-jitsu, what would that change be?
It is a true inner core self-confidence, like a rod of steel through your body. And people talk about confidence, or when people are training kids, they build confidence into them. But if you really train a pure art or a strong art or a full art, not just for the sports side, and that's why I want to differentiate between a sport and a martial art. Some sports are with the sport orientation is very fitness and goal orientated and whatnot, and it's excellent in many ways. But when you get into tradition of arts and things that have survived for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and there's a reason that people do it, because it kept them alive, you know what I mean? And it kept their families alive. And the reason you can breed is because your ancestors did an art that kept them alive during times of trouble. And here you are, you know what I mean? So if you can carry on that part of that core of self-confidence, that builds on, then you can radiate that out to the rest of your life. So whether it's work or a relationship, parental raising of children, caring for other people, being part of a bigger family as well, and just general care and well-being for people around you. And that can then go to a wider thing. And when you get into coaching and teaching, on it goes. Long and the short, also, you can hand that to the next generation. I am, and others are just a messenger. My master's told me, and my great grandmaster's told me, we're just a messenger. As is anyone that's training and trains for a while, you are just a messenger for this period, and then to hopefully pass on and develop what you know for good reason, and on it goes.
I love it. I love it. Can you teach confidence?
I think it's more of a learnt thing than a taught thing. So you can tell someone about, there's a terrible saying, you can lead a horse to water and you can't make it drink. And I much more prefer that the fact that I can show you where to look, but not what to see. That's the long and the short. I can show you where to look, but not what to see. And if you're telling people what to see, you're telling them to be confident. But in real terms, it probably won't work when you're under the pressure of a fight or a near-death experience or some such thing. And then people don't talk about freeze. It's fight and flight, fight and flight. Freeze is what most people do in any situation where, unless they've done training and repetition or a higher level, accurate sort of training, most people freeze, if only for a millisecond or longer, and that's where you find yourself in a bit of trouble. So deciding to make a decision, deciding to do something. If a car's coming speeding at the road, you could either jump left or right. That'd be great. That's a decision. Jumping up is also a decision. Not as good. You'll probably roll over the bonnet and windscreen, but it's a decision. But freezing is what a lot of people would do, and you get run over. So decision making is another skill that you learn from martial arts, I find, especially in what I'd say traditional training. And I don't want to get back to this, but it's all traditional, isn't it? If it survived, whether it's BJJ or Japanese Jiu-Jitsu or any karate, it doesn't matter. Boxing, it's traditional because it's survived. And that's what people get caught up in. Tradition means old-fashioned, and not really. Your grandparents were traditional because they survived that long, and so did theirs before them. So tradition means it's lasted. It should be something cherished, to be honest.
I love that. Tradition means it's lasted. I love it. I love it. Reflecting back on your students and the time you've spent teaching them and leading them, at what point do you look into their eyes and go, that person's got it? How do you know that point? This person has got that confidence that which this person seeks. How do you know? Is there a pivotal point?
There is a point where I lose most of my students when I know they've got their confidence is when they stop training. They leave. They've got what they needed. So I have over the years lost many at yellow, orange belt because they've got what they needed. I've given them that, the genuine self-defense we touched on before. So instead of leading along going, one day when you're a black belt, reasons in some way that I don't try and retain people. I try and instill that genuine confidence in them. And usually people get what they need and go, you know what, I'm ready to move on for the rest of my life. Whether they go into another art or don't do martial arts at all, lots of people are encouraged to look at other arts as well. I don't agree with going, this is the only one for you. It may not be. Certain people like certain things. They have physical attributes that suit them and their personality as well, where their work might take them and all that sort of stuff. People travel around. They can't always stick to one style. So I generally find that confidence when they go, oh, yeah, I've got it, is when they go, look, either they decide to go set a black belt and go, I'm really keen to do this and set a plan for the next couple of years, or they drift off and go on and start a business, things like that. Generally, people started businesses. A lot of my students, they've gone off and had that whatever dream or that thing they were thinking, they've gone and done it. But if you're going to start a business, it's going to consume 80 to 100 hours of your week. So there's less time to train them, So they do come back and go again or come back and stay. But for the most part, that's how I know. When they're confident, they generally commit to a higher grade and black belt for a lifetime of training, or go and do their task.
Mm. What are some of the differences that you've noticed in female students versus male students in terms of the way they trained and their mindset?
Yep. The female ones get confidence with the way I coach. Everyone's different. With the way I coach, I again, it's that steel core of genuine confidence. And I do try and reflect to them the more likely thing that's going to happen in their world or their life. But this is a terrible, I'm a generalist. I apologize now, I'm a generalist. And if anyone's listening, they can pick my generalistic opinion apart or version. But generally, women being nurturers, carers, and all that sort of part, and men being hunters, traditionally, way back. And it hasn't been that long we've not, to be fair. If you go, I went to New Guinea recently, it's still pretty much like that, A lot of men are hunting, a lot of women are caring and nurturing, We all have to either use that to help ourselves defend ourselves. So the women I find with a genuine, they get more out of it. They get more. A lot of blokes think they'd go all right anyway. You know what I mean? I'll be right. Show me a couple of things, I'm cool. Because they're a male and they need their ego to propel them through life. The women, I get much more satisfaction. You literally see the light bulbs going, wow. And you've given them something. Like, it was always, I didn't know what to do. And then they're going, I've got an idea what to do. And they'll pick their favorite things. And it's choice. I go, here's 5 things. These work pretty well. They're simple to use. You won't forget them. You don't have to do thousands of hours of training. Because every chance is you'll be distracted. And especially, say, ladies with, you got your 2 kids with you. It changes your entire version of how you would handle a situation. And more than 80% chance is going to be someone they love. 80% chance the person might be causing harm to them is someone they love. So how do you go? I've seen tons of years of training, and people go, right, you do this and heel palm that, gouge the eye, do all this business, break the arm bar this, do all that. How do you do that to a man you love? You won't. You won't do it. You won't do it. You'll think about it and go, no, but I love them. I'm not going to, or her. That doesn't matter. Their partner, whoever their partner be, they probably won't do it. So they've got all the training, all the effort, all the tools, everything's there. But emotionally, you need to love yourself enough to protect yourself. And that's I find women put so much effort outward into helping others, and not all, I'm generalizing again, not all women, but mostly because they're such intuitive, caring people. It's not in their interest for their ego to get in the way often. And they'll put themselves last in a self-defense situation as well. So that's the battle to overcome and go, you can be your best self. And if you protect yourself well, you can obviously protect your loved ones around you, your friends around that, and the greater society around that.
Such great advice. I love it. I'll speak from my perspective. I find when I'm, say, rolling with males, I find it so challenging. Like, I find it really hard because their strength is different to, say, when I'm rolling with females. And often at times I'm so gassed out I'm trying to find and leverage from my body type and what works for me. So I guess I wonder what your advice might be for someone like me who struggles to roll with the guys. What sort of advice can you give?
Well, technique's the one thing. So whether you're whatever age or size, or there's obviously 80-year-old Japanese masters that can win a fight, or Chinese masters, or wherever in the world masters, doesn't matter, because their technique's so good. You know what I mean? So if you're, and BJJ is an excellent way to show that a smaller person can beat a bigger person if the technique's correct, So it's obviously lots of training and make sure, and the technique for you, it's got to be a move you believe in. So I've had, this is a male student though, but I had a male student, he's ex-army guy. A lot of my guys are ex-defense or police, because it appeals, the way I train appeals to those people, or people, that work in services of some form. That I wouldn't say brotherhood, but certainly the atmosphere is appealing to them. But and he wasn't a big guy, but he's managed to win some confrontations because he truly believed in a technique, And he's even shocked me that situations go, wow, and he's been in remote areas or wherever he's been. But he truly believes in that technique, and the technique works because you have belief, not you're going with self-doubt. You're going, I know this will work, and it works. So got to remember too, when you comp training or or rolling around, you're already fatigued anyway. You might have rolled for 20 minutes, so you're a bit gassed anyway, and then you're up to a bigger person, and you will be thinking, I'm tired. They're a higher grade or bigger or aggressive. So you're already doubting yourself going in. And what am I going to do against them? So the more experience you have and the more you train, you'll have an idea. You know, you go, I know what to do against the big fella. I know what to do against the wiry one, the long-limbed one. Another girl that's a bigger girl, an aggressive person, someone that's just, they go flat out rolling hard, and you're going, hang on. And everyone does it. Let's take it easy. Yep. And they're on you and monstering you straight away. You know what I mean? So, and it gets into that, look, to be fair, it gets into that, I wouldn't call it, it's dirty fighting, I guess, the dirty boxing, whatever it be. Sometimes you got to use tricks to get yourself in a position where it's advantageous, you know. But that's where I want to touch on the differentiation between training for sport or comps, all that sort of stuff, as versus self-defense. If you're in a self-defense situation, yes, you might be bigger and all that, but if you use your ways and means to lure them into a false sense of security, like submit and as a lady go, yeah, whatever you need, I'll do it, and yeah, and you lure them into where you need to be, and then strike, the odds of winning are much higher. They wouldn't have done years of training to roll around on the ground. They've probably got a bit of aggression or a bit of shock in them, maybe to strike you to get out of that, but they're generally not thinking, cool, I'm going to roll around with this girl for ages. You know what I mean? They're going to try and rob you or drag you off or do what their crazy plan is at the time. So your surprise is your weapon. Surprise is your weapon, and that's even on the mat, I guess. It's your trick or your thing you're best at, that is your weapon, surprise. So whether it's mat rolling or a real life situation, surprise. It's like an ambush. Ambushes work. They do them. So developing your own ambush or your own ability to even act, or, you know, you might act a bit wounded. You might roll and go, ow, and they go, are you all right? Bang, gotcha, yeah. If you're that style of person, you know, depends how you want to train. How much do you want to win? Is it just social rolling, or is it a comp? You know, how far do you wish to go? So, and in your personal life, the same. I'm not a big one into teaching, especially the girls. People teach, yeah, turn around, heel palm the nose, gouge the eyes, do all that. It might be a family member, might be a friend of a family. You're not going to do these things. And if it is a random person, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Are you willing to blind them because they've grabbed you on the backside? You know what I mean? Or can we use coaching of escalating violence, which is appropriate? And it might be at workplace. You can't even hurt people in a workplace. You'll get sacked for overreacting to a miscommunication. So appropriate, escalation of violence is what I'm all about.
So what I'm hearing, Doc Shaun, is figure out the personality type, capitalize on the strength, and then have a belief in the technique.
You believe the technique because you've done it that many times. And execute. And you believe it because you've done it that many times, and it mostly works. And if it doesn't work, like most things in life, you probably should abandon it pretty quick and go to your plan B and C. Because you're struggling and struggling and struggling, like all things, whether it's a relationship, a workplace, or whatever it is. If it's not working, and you deep in your heart know it's not working, and in martial arts, the trouble is it's a lot quicker. These things happen in milliseconds. Like, oh, that's not working, and you know it's not going to work, but we're trained to keep going. But maybe not that thing, maybe not that technique, maybe not that job, maybe not that relationship, maybe not that argument. That mightn't be something worth hanging on to. You go, you know what? That hasn't worked. I'll adapt to the next one. So you need a plan B in most situations.
Love it. I love it. Doc Shaun, can you recall a moment in time when an insight or a light bulb moment dropped in your mind that made you think differently about what you were doing on the mats, and how you were able to take that into the outside world, outside of the mats, whether that might be in your personal life?
With what we do a lot of weapon disarming training, so live weapons. So we've got, look, and I'll explain with what they call Japanese Jui-Jitsu. So all Jiu-Jitsus came from Japan. I don't know if anyone knows or how their history is, and there's people know a lot more history about me, so I'll generalize. Japanese Jui-Jitsu came from Japan. It was developed in Japan by the samurais. Okinawa had karate, so that's the island off Japan. They were the karate people. So obviously the ruling class did Jiu-Jitsu. Then obviously it branched off around the world to other places. How's this? I'll go back a bit. They believe martial arts started in India. Priests started martial arts training in India, and they worked their way across to Asia. And the ones that survived got better. And they stopped in towns, and they stopped in China or Tibet, wherever they stopped, Korea, did their art. The people liked them. They kept them as their priest or mentor or whatever they did, kept them around, learned some things. And their, I guess, environment changed. The Taekwondo guys do jumping high kicks to get someone off a horse. You know what I mean? So at the time, the people had to fight against armored horsemen. So jumping in the air and kicking someone was really a useful tool at that time. And that's how that developed. So as it went on, Japan ended up with Jiu-Jitsu. So it started with the armed and unarmed. You had swords and spears and all that. But when you lost that, or you weren't walking around with your sword out every day, you had to use your unarmed. Remembering these were also police and magistrates and all this sort of stuff. So they were part and security, you know what I mean? So you couldn't always just stab someone. You had to use these other tools, which is your hand-to-hand stuff. So in our IJJF version, I guess, and it comes from military stuff as well, you got your throwing and strangling and all that sort of wrestling part of it. But then you've got the weapon disarming or using or defending. And so you've got a knife, a machete or a short sword, sticks or spears, broken bottles, handguns, you know, and there's probably 6 main weapon groups, you know, and a chain, which is a swung thing or whatever it be. And it is like a game of chess. There's only so many ways a human body can move to attack you with this thing. So there are many moves to counter these things, and usually you go from a worst case scenario that you're unarmed, and then you try and take it off that person. So our weapons training is what really gets you turned on. Like the John Wick stuff, it's like that in some ways. And it's like, wow, I'm really feeling, and early on when I was training, I started this in 1988, so I was 18 years old. And Michael Kaminsky was a pretty hard sort of fella and a military sergeant and a bit of a goer. Did security in King's Cross and all that sort of bizzo. So he was bringing out, and we were living in Western Sydney, so it was, every day. And on the base, you'd see these things happen. It wasn't a made-up thing. So I guess once you got to training, you went, wow, I saw this guy get glassed. You know what I mean? What's that about? So you get a bottle and someone goes, right, I'm gonna, and you go to Malaysia, same deal. And they're just on the mat, go high, and they go, I'm going to stab you now. And you're getting stabbed, you know, with a, mostly live weapon. So it turns you on pretty quick. And you go, right, this is real deal. They're not trying to blind you or anything like that, but there's certainly risk there. And it's not just to be a terrible person. It's to make you turn on and go, right, this is serious. What we're doing is serious. And the move I could make could cause some harm, back the other way as well. So I guess the weapons training. Also, I've got to touch on, we do Kwatsu. So that's the art of death and revival. Not Chinese guys do dim mak and a few arts do it. So the BJJ guys, the strangulations and the choking techniques, they're all Kwatsu based. And that's in our style. We have my rank's a doctor of jiu-jitsu. So it's in between a professor and a master. And back in the day when I talked about the priests, they were healers. So you had a broken bone or injuries or whatever, the martial artists would heal these things. So they're essentially doctors for the region. You know what I mean? They knew more about anatomy than most other people. So I guess the weapons and the Kwatsu. The Kwatsu is the main part that ties our art together. And back to what you said before, how does small beat big? With nerve points, because your nerves, everyone's got them, you know what I mean? So a large person with a nerve being struck can be felled by a smaller person.
Wow. So the reactive drills that you would have done during your weapon training and then having to take it out in the real world as a guard, and that must have been exciting.
Well, I wouldn't say exciting, but it's certainly what's the right word? It's exhilarating at times, I suppose. And it's controlling that adrenaline release. You see, most people have problems with the adrenaline release. That's the good part about training all the time, is learning how to control that adrenaline release. And that's the breath. The breath's what it's all about. As most things, meditation, everything based on that is the breath. If you stop breathing, well, everything stops. You unconsciously breathe, but when you're nervous, you shallow breathe. And that's its own enemy, you know what I mean? So when you're, like I said, we've touched on before, when you're rolling around, you're a bit fatigued, you're breathing, you mightn't be aware of your breathing. So then you're almost losing before you've even slapped hands to have a roll. Because your breathing's not right, you're anticipating this big, strong person. How am I going to handle this? Your chest is tightening up. So you're breathing from your chest tightening up for your anxiety of fighting someone bigger. You're not breathing properly. So you're already on a downhill slope to going, why did I gas out? Oh, I must be there stronger. Well, maybe. Or maybe you could well be fitter. Bigger people do burn more oxygen when they're working hard. So it's not always the point that, they're big so they win. That's not the case. In a raw strength arm wrestle, true, of course. They've got much better chance, But in the general part of if you're breathing, techniquing, training, it increases your chances immensely.
Doc Shaun, would you say that it's to be able to have that control in the breathing so that we can last longer during sparring? Is it just a matter of awareness, like consistently just being aware of where we are in space and time during that moment and just bringing it that awareness? Oh, I'm shallow breathing, slow, deep breaths. Okay, roll.
It's about control.
Is there another
control? Well, it's controlling the situation. Which the first point of control is controlling yourself. Control your own adrenaline, control your own anxiety, control your own negative thoughts. So if you can control that, you're off to a good start. And you're grounded. Literally, if you're on the ground, you're grounded. But if you're standing, you're still grounded. You're thinking your way through this. You're not staring through them. You're taking in all your surroundings. Because you might, with what we do, you want to look at a lot of conflicts are in toilets. You've got a wet floor. You know what I mean? You've got metal. You've got sharp edges. You've got marble. You've got limited room to move. Is there more than one person? As much as I love wrestling, and the beauty of the art of wrestling, it's its own thing. It's its own art in every way. You know what I mean? But when there's more than one opponent, that's where you got to bear in mind. Right? Is that my first go-to is rolling around? You know what I mean? In a situation where you're grabbed or you wake up and someone's in a room, of course they're on your bed. Of course you're going to roll around and get them off there. But look, as far as controlling the environment, which is a mat's an environment, your home's an environment. Walking at night alone and scared is also an environment. So if you find yourself in risky situations, you can imagine your heart rate's going to go up. You're consuming more oxygen. What footwear are you wearing? If you have to run away, what are you wearing? So I can go too far with that stuff. People just go out and have a good time. Depends how big your self-preservation is or where you're living in the world. A lot of decisions we made in a quite nice, safe Western environment, you know what I mean? But other people don't live in those environments. So to teach, or if you're in Western Queensland as opposed to the Gold Coast, you've got a different environment, a set of factors you have to consider. So, but breath, obviously, if you're breathing calmly and not churning up your own oxygen, then that's the first start of things, isn't it? And you've got a settled mind. So when you've got a calm mind and heaps of oxygen in your lungs and your heart's pumping and the blood's coursing through and your brain's clear, you're more likely to make a good decision. That technique we touched on before, instead of freezing and going, I don't know what I'll do, I'll see what happens. And if you do that, probably what will happen is the other person will eventually get some sort of dominance. Not to say you can't win from there, but you're on the back foot.
Got it. What advice could you give someone who finds the commitment and the dedication that's required on this journey and they find it extremely difficult and challenging? What advice could you give this person?
The long and the short, and I'll generalize with Jiu-Jitsu. Other martial arts as well, but I'll stick to Jiu-Jitsu. It gives back at least double what you put in. I'd say triple. When you're coming up to bigger gradings and higher things, quadruple. If you've trained up for a black belt or brown belt or something, or higher level grade, it gives back, I think, 4 times what you've put out, as long as you don't run yourself to destruction. And that's the key to, again, control yourself and don't overtrain and break yourself. And then you've set up these constant failures, and that's why you don't turn up, because you overtrain, hoping to get to this goal. And work burnout's the same. You work and do bulk hours, and then wonder why you collapse and can't complete that task or that program or whatever. But really, it's a form of self-sabotage. You know what I mean? So you have to balance, and it's risky. It's like throwing the dice and hoping to get a double six. You might, it's a 1 in 12. Or you can do a moderated approach and plan it out like most things and get a better result. So I really think the people that can't commit have to think, what am I getting back out of this? And you can even write it down. Writing down works well, or typing it, or whatever. Think about it. Doesn't matter. Going, and I have lots of students. I tell you, it blows my mind. People turn up, haven't seen it for ages. They train, they leave. They're on, and everyone's felt that adrenaline high, that whatever, the group high. the moment you walk out and go, you want to capture that. When you leave, every time you leave and you got that buzz going on, because it is a form of it's like a drug high, I suppose. Your body's released chemicals and endorphins and dopamine to make you feel great. And you feel great. When that's just finished that role, you've just said goodbye to everyone, you've just got in your car and you feel that sense of achievement, you've made it. Just remember that moment. I was only saying it a week or two ago. Just remember this moment. Remember this minute, because life's made up of minutes and seconds, isn't it? The sads and happies and joys and whatever. That moment of having a kid and holding it only lasts so long. You know what I mean? Then you got the rest of their life to look after them. That's a lot harder than that holding that beautiful thing or achieving that goal or getting that belt tied around your waist or getting that promotion, whatever that thing that you aspire or we perceive to make us happy in our short-term Western way of looking at things. Asians have a much longer way of looking at it. I'm generalizing. But Eastern cultures have a longer way of looking at things, you know? We have developed a short-term thing in our Western ways of instant gratification. So to now go, hey, it'll take you 5 years to get this. Most Western, for 5 years, they're thinking 5 minutes. I want something now. How do I get that now? Not so. It's much harder for all martial arts are suffering generationally because I guess it's the IT and the computers have made things so quick and fast and instant gratification, shopping, everything, food. Everything's instant. You can have it real quick. So to say, I need you to commit this many years to this, it's a hard sell. You know what I mean? I don't know if I want to commit years to it. Maybe a little bit of time I can do. But again, so two things. You're going to remember when you train, when you leave, to remember that feeling, when you're feeling good, and just try and think about that. When you're feeling sad, think about that, and just try and capture that feeling and hang on to it for a bit longer, like a minute longer, or just be in the moment. That good feeling, because you've earned it. You've turned up. You've made the effort. There's so many distractions in life to stop you going, and other commitments and all these things are in the way to get you to go for something you know it's really good for you. You know physically and mentally and spiritually this training you're going to is good for you. It is good for you. Sometimes you got to change clubs. Sometimes that club is not your environment. It might not be the people. Who knows? But it might not be. I'm not saying it's jump club to club, but when people do move around, they're not bad. They're just trying to find that tribe that suits their nature at that time. And it might be just that period in their life, they need that sort of environment of that club. And different clubs have different. Some are very competition orientated, some are spiritual. Depends what you need at the time. So just try and capture that. One, remember, you get a lot more back than you put in. You just do.
Yes.
But so many people wouldn't train if this was the case. You know what I mean? Most of us aren't in life and death situations where we have to survive, like in the Ukraine, or need your martial arts to keep alive. So the reason people do it is it makes them feel good. It makes them feel strong and worthy and fit and sense of community, all those things. The dopamine, adrenaline, as I touched on before. So we know it's good. We go, but then what do? We self-sabotage and find a reason not to go. It's too dark. It's too cold. It's too expensive. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
The monkey
Whatever
mind.
reason. That's right. The monkey ignoring in your neck goes, these are the reasons maybe you shouldn't, you know? And then when you don't, you feel bad for not going. You feel guilty and you beat yourself up and over-apologize to your other training partners or your instructor and go, sorry, and all that. So you're starting off your training with a negative straight away. Just go. Just go. You're there before you know it. Just, if your gi's not on, just get there.
Just turn up.
Just get there. Later. Just turn up. Just turn up.
Yeah.
You do it.
I
You
get
do
it.
it for work. No, we do it for work. Mostly we do it for work. Mostly there's a reason. There's a financial incentive. We go there. For family things, we turn up. There's an incentive to turn up to family occasions or whatever. You find a way. And doing training, it's for yourself. It's one of the few in a world of very narcissistic and selfish elements around. It's one of the few things people allow themselves to not treat themselves. You know what I mean? I get it's physically hard too. Who's looking forward to that? You know what I mean? But like I say, you get much more back than you get back, and then it becomes a habit. Like any habit.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Doc Shaun, when you said that feeling. Focus on the feeling that you get after the training. And I must admit, when I walk out of there, I just feel euphoric. You know, there was this one time where I felt this over feeling of love for life. And I was just like, and I started to actually cry over the phone while I was telling my husband about my experience. I was like, oh my God. I was just like, I don't know what's wrong. I'm just feeling so emotional. I'm just so in love and proud of myself and my ability to overcome that toughness. And it is, and I get that feeling. I think that's happened only a number of times. And it was like, oh my God. It was so beautiful.
Euphoria is what you're chasing. You won't get euphoria every lesson, you know. I mean, you don't, but it is like the feeling of love. So it's a dopamine reaction. You've done enough series of factors, whether it's the fitness part or the pulling off the technique or the little win, or not even winning, just someone else not getting you in that move. You don't have to win and go, I'm the champion. They tried it out and they've busted themselves trying to get you, and they didn't get you. That's a win. You know, I mean, you tried to do this to me and it didn't happen. I never won. It's a draw at worst, but that's a win in my book, you know. So the euphoria is an amazing thing. Can I touch on something else as well? So when you say exactly what you said then, it was beautiful to hear that, what you just said, from a relationship point of view. And I've found this a lot in my many years of coaching, because I've been coaching since, I don't know, early 2000s, I guess. So earlier. 96, 97. So
wow.
A lot of people go and say exactly what they'll either usually go home, especially when they start out or they've been going a while, and they'll go to their partner. I found this thing I love. And on they go, exactly what you said then. And it's, for me, I'll hear that and go, that's how good's that? Imagine if you had an insecure partner hearing that. So you're the insecure partner, and the relationship, whatever, or their perception of a relationship, marriage, living with someone, whatever it be, it doesn't matter. New boyfriend, new girlfriend, doesn't matter. And you're going back to this person that may have
I'm still here
about all this. Yep. And you're going, hey, I've found something I love, and I can't even describe how much I love it, and it's amazing, and here's the 10 things I love about it, and all the people, everything else, and it's all just wonderful. You know what I mean? So they can sometimes go, you know what? I don't like the sound of that. That sounds like you love something apart from me. And if they're any sort of controlling person, it's either sex, it doesn't matter. But let's talk about women for now. We'll flip to women. So imagine you come back and you go with a boyfriend and you go, I love this. It makes me feel awesome. And everyone there's great. And the guys are great. And all that trip. I'm just saying, bear in mind how, if your partner's not 100% on board and loving what you're doing, how they might then go, you know what? I think I'll try and work some doubt into you about going there, because that makes me feel disempowered. You know what I mean? And they often come along. I don't know how many people had come along, go, come and have a look. I go, do you want to jump on the mat? No, I'm cool. And they might train other arts or not or whatever. And then you can see they're looking, going, nah, this is, and I know that person's not going to keep training. I know that other person is going to work on them to stop, because their confidence is raising, and they're insecure to go, if they get too confident, they're not going to be with me. They'll see the true me or whatever they perceive themselves to be. So as much as that person in training is getting all this benefit that we've talked about, just bear in mind as a martial artist how that might affect your other relationships and your work ones as well. If you've got an inner strength and you're carrying it with you, other people will see that as something to compete against and go, nah, she's a bit too confident, I don't like it, I'm going to erode it another way, in my sneaky way or whatever way that may be. So it's a terrible thing of human nature, but it's a fact, you know what I mean? And so the upwards of women and the blokes, same deal. You may have whatever, kids at home, wife's busy, life's busy. He's going out, coming back. I found something I love. I love this, and I'm there, and on they talk about it, and that other person hears you're loving something outside of our little family unit. I don't think I like it. I don't think I like you loving something else. I'm just not with that. And they're not there training and watching you, you know what I mean? Confident people and confident relationships is never an issue, and people do their thing. But I have noticed that a lot in my years of training. It's an unspoken thing about why people stop turning up for class, why people stop training. And no one wants to go, yeah, my partner has worked on me and put doubts in me, and maybe it's not that good, or found other things to do that are more important to them. So all I can offer people is a bit of advice there. Just while you're training and loving it, look how it may affect your partner.
Got it. No, that's powerful. Could you share some insights on, say, for example, managing team dynamics gained from your experience on the mats, and how this has helped you address conflicts and build strong teams in leadership roles?
Yeah. So what identification of strength is the main thing. So when you got a mixture of people in different sizes and shapes, all that sort of stuff, all learning things. Some people are natural teachers. They're born to teach. They get off on it. They might do it for a career or not. They never have. They do another thing. But in this martial arts environment, they can be a teacher because of, sensei. You know what sensei means? Sensei means one who has walked before. Oh, sorry, not sensei. That's the head student in the class. Anyway, I think of it now. Anyway, I'm rattling off there. But senpai. Senpai means one who has walked before. And sensei means another translation of that. So it means you've walked the path before. You've done this once or 100,000 times. I can show you. So some people develop excellent, and they should, in a martial arts environment, develop their teaching skills or sharing of knowledge skills, or sure, I'll help you out and show you this. So a lot to give up. You're better at someone than something. You are much better. So why are you going to hand that advantage over? That's crazy. You wouldn't do it in many other environments. You wouldn't go, I'm better at you than this, but you've turned up and I'm going to show you this technique or develop you to maybe beat me. You know what I mean? That is a very selfless thing, and I love it at martial arts. It's a very kind thing to do, to be honest. There's trust. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to give you a weapon that might hurt me back, and hope or realize that you probably, hopefully, if I'm a good judge of character, won't use it against me. So that is one part of it. But developing your team and your dynamic within that club, remembering it's like work too, it can change. People come and go. We just talked about it. Someone's there and it's awesome. You got a buzz, and these 3 people don't turn up, and you go, training's not like it used to be, because the dynamic of that group, as you have with your friendships, you have some good friends, and it just works. No one's trying, and it's just incredible. And or family, or whatever environment you be in, or just you and a best bud. You don't know why it's good. You haven't seen each other for years, and you meet, and it clicks and runs. Clubs and martial arts clubs, football clubs are all the same. So the right dynamic, that can be a pleasurable thing and hit those endorphins, and make you feel great. And that's why you go. And then that changes. Someone leaves, moves, whatever, and then you feel like it's a struggle, and then you probably blame the club instead of the human dynamic that's changed. So I guess developing other people to fill in, as you would at work, you've got to upskill other people and arm them with knowledge, whether it's coaching, techniques, personality, whatever. If a real quiet person's a quirky, funny one, develop that humor. So people laugh. When you're laughing in a club, it's cool. It's not so heavy, and you're more likely to go, instead of a hard smash out sesh, But if it's a bunch of young 22-year-old blokes, they probably like the smash out set, because that's what they want to do. They want to burn off their testosterone. So reading the club and reading the rooms is a big one. One of the biggest struggles of an instructor is, and it is you're there, who's turning up? It doesn't matter what level you are. You can be a junior person. They go and train those 3. You go, who are these? I've never met this person before. Now I'm getting thrown into a situation. I'm getting asked to teach them. I've never met you before. And they look a bit scary, or they look a bit disinterested, or whatever it be. So you've got to overcome that. And all those things then develop your personal life, don't they? Because you've got away with it. One little one I do it with the younger guys. I don't teach below, say, 13. That's just my thing. I don't. There's loads of people that can teach kids. I probably take people on from teens upwards. That's because of the weapons thing and the quatsu thing and all that. That's more what it is. I have taught kids, obviously, but my preference as a coach is teens and up. So male, female, doesn't matter. So really, when you're starting and lining up and doing all your drills and warm-ups and stuff, I get the young people to show some stretches at the start. So without knowing, and I'll show them and coach them, I'll mirror them. I'll say, just copy me, and I'm doing this stretch and this stretch and that stretch and this stretch and this. Whatever stretches you do in your art. I'll say, just copy me, so you don't even have to have the confidence. You just mirror me. But what they're doing is public speaking without knowing. They're standing in front of a group of people they don't know. It changes, doesn't it? You're confident with these people. These new people turn up. Oh, no, what do? You do the same. You just repeat that action. You know what you're doing. It's a simple task. So do your simple task. And then before they know it, they've got 10, 20, whatever people they're in front of, teaching something or showing something. And that's like public speaking. Now you're going to charge on a stage in front of 100 or 1,000 people. It's a similar thing. It's just a bigger thing each time. So starting that little step to, a little bit of coaching and public teaching, that is one of my tricks that the core of self-confidence, that's one of the cables. It's like a cable. And you need lots of wire cables to make a strong rod, and that's one of them. Having the confidence to talk in front of people and get out. Some people have too much to say. You can't shut them up. And they over teach. They say so much. As you know, people learn. Some people are tactile. They got to touch and pull the arm bar and wrist lock. That's how they get it. Other people are oral. You hear it, just tell it to me twice. It's wired in there. And most are a mixture. You got to see it, feel it, hear it. Off we go. So one is learning how your student reacts to that coaching. Not everyone does the same thing. Yelling at some people is the worst. I find the younger crew, the older guys my age, you can yell at them and you get a result. Come on, blokes, lift your game, blah, 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 all that. The young crew aren't used to being yelled at. And they fold and switch off and don't come back. They just go, I can't. This guy yelled at me. I've never been yelled at before. But what do you think a fella on the street's going to do to you? Excuse me, mate, can I punch you? And he's not. He's going to start with some swear words, screaming at you, a moment of aggression, which will probably freeze, and then we're on. So telling people that's happening is the first thing. Hey, we're going to be a bit aggressive today. This is what we're on to. So that's more, our training program's a bit more like that. So it's more functional day-to-day living, not, a sport thing's different. It's a different way of thinking, and it is certainly a learned and developed thing. And to take a street version into a sports one, you're not likely to succeed as much. You'll be overly aggressive and over the top sometimes, and just be like too much like a dog with a rag and ripping at it. You know what I mean? Whereas, as you know, good competition people have excellent timing. The training's a different thing. You've got to go through a series of fights. You know what I mean? You've got to reserve yourself through the series of fights to then win the big one at the end. You know, can't, as you talked about before, gassing yourself out early. You're better than them, but your breath let you down in the third fight. You know what I mean? And then, man, what to do that for? Because you've lost control of your environment. Your environment is a bunch of fights. Your environment is people you've never met and a bunch of fights. So you got to control your environment. So you're more likely.
I love it.
You don't always win. Losing is the thing. You often lose in life. It happens. So learning to lose is probably more important than learning to win. The win's like an almost surprise sometimes. Far out, that worked. But, wow, that's sick. And then you get the euphoria and all that. But the loss bit's going, yeah, all right, that's cool. I can absorb that. Because the loss is a learn, isn't it? Well, it doesn't have to be, but it should be. The loss is the learn. You know, you go, right, I won't do that again. Or if you keep doing it, you're probably not wise.
One of the biggest things that I learned from reading what's his name? Buckminster Fuller's material. And Buckminster Fuller, a philosopher, one of the things he said was that human beings are designed to make mistakes. That's how we learn. Human beings are designed to learn by making mistakes. And when I first read that, and I went, oh my gosh, absolutely. Because I was one of the, Miss Perfectionist, can't make an error, can't fail, everything needs to be da-da-da-da. But then when I realized and I've learned that, and as a mature age, while I'm rolling and sparring on the mats, I've now come to realize I want to make the mistakes. I want to be put into a choke. I want to tap out, because then that's going to give me some other approaches and other ways to learn how to then combat that, So whereas when I started in my early 30s, and making errors for me was like, oh my gosh, that was not right for me. I would be hard on myself. But now as I'm older and I've come back on the mats after 4 years off, I've learned to embrace that. It's okay. It's okay.
Can I ask you a question? What was the gap in your experience, the 4-year gap? What drove that? Was that a choice at the start to stop training, or was it just led up to a series of events that became too hard to get there? Can I ask you that? Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I stopped because my life at the time was extremely busy. We were renovating. I was finishing off uni, and there was just too much going on, which led to burnout. So there was actually it was the illness that had me stop, because as a result of burnout, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I was rolling and I was shaking. My heart was racing, and I felt this is not normal. This is not I was training 4 or 5 days a week, going hard at that, hard at high intensity interval training, stressing through life, and it just my system just shut down, completely shut down. And I had to, it took me a while. I didn't think I would go back, because every time I would think about going back, I would be triggered thinking, oh no, what if those symptoms resurface? But then I realized, no, I've recovered, it's resolved. I can slowly start to get back into it.
I'm a master of mechanics as well. I'm an aircraft engineer, and in the fleet. I run fleets, for the government. So I call it run to destruction. So what that is running to destruction. Literally, let's say you had an engine, or you haven't changed oil and whatever, or haven't serviced it, haven't looked after it. It's still going, and your car does it. People do it all the time. It starts every day. You go, you know what? I'll get around to that service. I will. I'll next pay. And the mechanic said that, but you go out and it still starts every day. It still runs. It still idles. It still goes. Might be a bit slower, and things are starting to break, and your wiper doesn't work, and your headlight's out. All things like that. Your brakes might get squeaky. It's a bit sluggish up a hill, but it still keeps going. And what you do is run to destruction. You keep driving, and don't service it. And the service is your brake, or you're refueling, or being kind to yourself, or giving up another thing, and allowing that training to be one of your priorities, or maybe give up the high intensity because you're running to destruction. You can't often do both. And look, when you're fit and well and strong, you sometimes can cross train a lot. You know what I mean? You can. And sometimes with a grading coming up, it's not a bad idea to cross train in other parts, but lots of people run to destruction. Then you have that big elbow or knee injury or ankle injury or chronic fatigue. My wife's got chronic fatigue. I totally understand what you're talking about. It's its own monster. And a lot of people do. Inflammation, all that sort of stuff is a big problem part of our Western world we're living in. So, look, I couldn't agree more. You can hear a little kid yelling. Anyway, it's my 5-year-old. I've got a 20-year-old and a 5-year-old. Work that out. So,
oh, wow.
Different stages of life. You go through different stages of life.
On that topic, and before I let you go, what are some strategies or coping strategies or preventable strategies that you can provide? Like, what advice can you give to prevent that burnout or overworking? What are some self-care techniques perhaps that you've implemented in your life?
So priorities is the main thing. And love yourself. Love yourself. It's narcissists have no problem with that. They go, I'm all over it. I'm way ahead of you, Shaun, way ahead of you. So narcissists, they're cool with that, but they'll neglect other things around them to get what they want. So, but for most people aren't narcissists, but most population, you got the self-care. It's self-care, and self-care is training. Training is self-care, because you get, as we've discussed before, you get so much back. So making time to train and keep turning up, and don't guilt yourself out for not get there when you can, but just get up. It's like wrestling. Get up. You got to get up. You can't lie on the floor. You got to, at some point, you have to get up. And after every roll, you do get up and you shake and all that sort of business. So getting up is the key. But once you generally know when you're taking on too much. You feel it and you go, wow, something's got to give, and you know it's going to give. So it's giving yourself permission to give away other things, to do the things you love and that fulfill you, whether it's time with a partner or time with a kid or time for yourself to do, and also give your partner a thing to do as well. If you love this art, you love this thing, it's a time thief, like gaming and other things. It can take time away. People go, you're absent, you're not here. Yeah. So when you're going, I need this 2 hours or whatever hours a week to fulfill my martial arts, need, probably give something back to your partner or family or whoever. It's just yourself, and no one is an island, are they? Very, very rarely it's someone just worrying about their own selves. Maybe a young person just moved out, but they're free to do that. It's not the thing. And they don't generally burn out. Like, the older you get, the more responsibilities you get, and the more pressure you get, and you're more likely to suffer a burnout. If you're burning out at 21, you're probably, you're caning too much with party drugs. And, that's why you burn out, not from working too much. You can handle a fair bit of that at that age. But as you get older, the responsibilities stack. Injuries stack. You get more injuries. You can't do what you did at, that age. So you got to work within your limitations as well. So, yeah. So
feeling that.
About, I think. Yeah. There's so much to talk about. And, barely scratch the surface here.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, if there was one key trait in Jiu-Jitsu, what would that trait be? The one key trait in Jiu-Jitsu.
As far as from a training point of view, the trait is, don't stop training. And if you've got to train a different way or train a different art, or as we get older, I'm hoping if I can't do this when I'm old, I'll do Tai Chi or some human movement, But find what you're good at, just because you're all right at rolling around or whatever. If you find something else, or just it's not betrayal looking elsewhere. It just means you're having a look around what's out there, and you might have reached your peak. Like I said, I've lost that many people, but it's guys have gone off and then become Muay Thai champions. I've started people's martial arts journey. Some guys they're footy players and higher level footy players, and they end up teaching martial arts for a living. They didn't know until they met me that it could be a thing. But not my jiu-jitsu. They did mine for years and then went into Muay Thai or whatever. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've got a sense of accomplishment that I've changed someone's life in a path that they never even knew was possible. Met me, and then on it went. So just find what you're good at and run with it. Enjoy it.
And show up.
Show up. Get up. Show up.
I love it. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Doc Shaun, for your time. Hi there.
Raining.
Really, really appreciate it. Any last words of wisdom from Mat to Mastery you wish to share?
Just love yourself, love your loved ones. Give yourself a break. Keep training, and love what you love. And get me back for another podcast.
Woohoo! Part 2. I can't wait.
Let's do one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Sheb.
Doc Shaun.
Great interview. I appreciate your time.
My absolute pleasure.